Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara. We do about TV shows here. The year is 2022 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 4, episode 8. Already at episode 8, I feel like we're flying through this. The episode's called The Illusion of Truth, so full spoilers for the episode. And we have something of a... I won't quite call it a sequel episode, but like I was reminded of when the journalist came on board to like do a news piece. Like I think it was early last season when the war was kind of like right in the midst of things, and there was like lots of injured people around. Remember the woman came on board?
Yeah, I think that might have been season 2. I thought it was early into like Sheridan's career.
It was early enough, but I feel like at the very least it was after at least the Narn Centauri war started, because there was definitely conflict like going on when she was going around and stuff. There was like people with like burns and all sorts. So obviously it was hard not to think about that, mainly because that was also for ISN News, but that was before ISN News got kind of overtaken by the government and has become just this propaganda arm, as they put it in this episode. So we have this reporter on board who's going around asking various people questions, trying to get the scoop. And what's interesting about the format of this episode is that it's really weird, and from a format and perspective, because it for about half the episode it's actually just like the finished news report, like uninterrupted with no reaction shots. We spend maybe 20 minutes or so in the first half with interest, seeing what all the characters are up to. This reporter's going around. We see some scenes of the characters in private as well that set up some themes and stuff. But then like there's like a 20-minute chunk that is just this news report, and we see how this guy has spun everything he's seen and all the things that he's heard, and he's flat out just ignoring stuff that he's been told by people, and he's just making up stuff and sort of using the footage and conveniently muting most of the audio until there's one little bit of sound bite that can maybe work out of context to go with his story. And then a very cold conclusion where it just shows the reaction of Sheridan in silence, no dialogue, just Ivanova leaves the room, Delenn tries to comfort Sheridan, then Sheridan just walks away and it's just left in silence. And he comes back on and turns off the TV as the last thing we see, but it's a very cold ending to the episode, which is a very distinct difference to the first half, which I think is a bit more upbeat, just because inherently it doesn't feel like that serious an episode. And then the news report and everything it tries to do, and it's almost like the government and the like Clark and stuff, like really declaring war without actually declaring war on Babylon 5 by like presenting the story the way it is, which we'll get into what the specifics are. But how did you feel about this one?
Yeah, I agree. It was a bit strange in that I wasn't expecting just to go full into the news report for the rest of the episode. I thought at least they would break it up a bit and then have some like reaction shots, like you were saying. I mean, because we did have that one before, and it was the whole episode was just the news report, I think. But
yeah, that was like mockumentary style, that episode. Yeah,
right. Yeah, which is something that other shows have done too. And
yeah. It's a common like storytelling. I mean, if anything, it's more common in the wake of like stuff like The Office, which does the entire show like that. So.
Sure. Yeah. But I do like the episode, though. I think it's despite the kind of a jarringness of just having like what feels like 2 completely different episodes in one. Like I do like what the message, and that I get JMS really doesn't trust the news.
There's one particular news channel that sprang to mind as this was playing out. I'm not going to lie.
Well, yeah, I'm sure like depending on where you sit politically, you can name at least one. Ours is probably pretty obvious, but in any case, yeah, this how everything is being sensationalized and changed into these really crazy conspiracy theories against Babylon 5, that I suppose President Clark has the ammunition to make these bold claims that maybe I guess people of Earth will fall for. There's some nice follow-up with what's happening in other stories on the news also, not just on Babylon 5, but what's been going on Mars and on Earth, and celebration of Psychor even. There's an ad for that. It was still just a really good, needed update on what's going on Earth.
On that ad,
what our next
because it wasn't so much an ad for Psycho, it was more it was like a couple of real things. It does the thing that Star Trek sometimes does, where it'll give you like two real things from history and then it'll do two things in the future. And it mentioned like Psycho was founded 100 years ago in 2160 something. What stuck out to me about that though is that they said that the first like colony like foundation was put on the moon in 2018. And I was like, damn it, we're behind schedule.
Stupid old future. That's my favorite future.
We were behind schedule. I mean, I think by the end of the episode, I really appreciated what it did. I was kind of like conflicted at points, and because in the first half of the episode, like I was enjoying the update with the various characters. I love Londo coming to complain to Sheridan about something stupid, and it's it's just his quarters are cold, and he's over exaggerating how cold it is, and Sheridan's been a smart ass about it, and it's just it's like fun like B5 character interactions that I enjoy, but it felt quite low key. And I could sense that there was some trouble, like the way it was, like the interview with Sheridan and Delenn. I'm like, I feel like they can easily twist a lot of this and make it look quite bad.
Yeah, once she said, "Well, we'll make them see it" or something.
Yeah,
it's really threatening.
That could come across. I know she doesn't mean it that way, but it sounds very. It could be taken as threatening. And when it got to the news report, I was like, man, we're just because what I thought was going to happen, because they go to they don't actually do anything. I'm assuming when it was actually broadcast, this is where the actual ad breaks of the show were. But they go to ad breaks. They say, "Oh, we'll be back for the next segment of this story after this." And it'll be like ISN News, Interstellar Network, blah blah blah. And I thought, oh, maybe during the ad breaks we'll cut back to the characters and they'll comment in the because it's like three chunks. There's at least two ad breaks in the ISN News channel, if you will. And but it doesn't do that. It just kind of goes straight into the next part. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I think the benefit by the end doing this though is the bookend of the episode, which is at the start of the episode. Sheridan talks to Ivanova. That he's concerned about his family and his father. He's not had a chance to speak to them because they're on they can't speak. There's no communication with Earth. Yeah. And he's worried that they'll try and do something to his father or his family because of who he is and because he's the head of B5. And Ivanova sort of like reassures him, says, "Well, your dad's like pretty capable. He's just trained. He knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot." Plus, he's also an ex-official. Like, he can't just disappear without any like suspicion. And at the very end of the news thing, the presenter just casually throws in, "Oh yeah, Sheridan's like family farm burned down a week ago, and like the father's still missing." So, like everything up until that point, there's kind of almost like a dark humor to it of like watching how they're spinning this into this crazy conspiracy theory. But that last little beat that he just throws in there is like almost like an anecdotal add-on is the bit that actually hits the hardest, because it's like it affects Sheridan, and so that's what you're waiting for. You're waiting for his reaction to that part. So obviously they're not happy about everything else they've done and how they've painted Babylon 5 and this crazy conspiracy, which we're going to get into in a minute. But it's him standing there in silence at the end after he's just heard that some of his family are probably dead, his father's probably dead, or being held captive somewhere. And this is the game they're now playing. This is now, it's more of a Cold War now, I guess. Or a propaganda war, perhaps, if you want to call it that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Babylon 5 was sort of making some headway against this propaganda with the last episode. We're like, where are you guys from? We're from Babylon 5, but we heard you guys were bad. This seems to be setting them back a few more steps.
And there's that joke earlier on, which isn't a joke by the end of the episode, where Sheridan says, "Oh, there's something worse than fighting the shadows," and that's reporters. But by the end of the episode, it's like, maybe that wasn't that much of a joke. Like, he might have been right.
Like, it's easy when you have someone who is definitely evil, definitely the enemy, versus your own people who are trying to play this more political game of propaganda. And it's hard. it's hard to fight the enemy when the enemy is like your neighbor.
Yeah, and straight up misinformation as well, because we know what the cryo sleep stuff is going on. It's all the ex like pilots of the shadow ships, these telepaths that were kidnapped by the shadows and converted, and it's presented in the news piece as, oh, people are disappearing and there's all these cryopods being filled. What are they doing to human beings at the behest of all these aliens? Like, what are they doing? And then it turns into Sheridan wants to create a human Minbari mixed race, like Delenn.
They're so anti-human because of the Minbari influence that they want to actually dehumanize themselves by turning them into aliens.
Yes, into half Minbari. And that's his plan. It's so
crazy, but like the conspiracy theories that come out today, you're like, yeah, I guess there are people who would buy it.
Yeah. I don't, like, none of it felt that far-fetched that they would try and spin this, sadly. Like, that's the saddest part of the episode from a real world point of view. But like, yeah, so they have like this psychologist come on and talk about like this superiority complex, or inferiority complex, I should say, when it comes to Minbari.
Garibaldi talks about Sheridan having a bit of a god complex.
Well, yeah, that's separate, but they bring on a psychologist first though, and he talks about how, due to his time in the war, a lot of people who were in the Minbari war have this inferiority complex and start to like see them as superior, and then they tie that back into like, he's marrying a Minbari. Like this is leading bad places. They're arming ships around the station. They got all this going on. Yeah, I mean the Garibaldi thing, when they eventually get to the Garibaldi interview, and Garibaldi kind of seemingly honestly, although admittedly, how much of this is the programming? We always have to ask, every time Garibaldi comes up, we have to like question how much of this is just him and how much of it is the programming.
It's the brain scramblies.
Yeah. But honestly, it sounds quite believable it could be him, that he feels uneasy with the idea that like he keeps confiding in only Delenn and Lorien, and that's kind of it. I mean, he's kind of conveniently ignoring Ivanova, who I still feel like he talks to and is quite open with.
Probably, yeah.
But, you know, it does make me feel that this is maybe some of the programming to turn him into Sheridan, and not like in an extreme way where it's completely obvious at first that he's just, flipped a switch. It's more, it's gradually coming out as this opinion, so it feels a bit more natural. It feels a bit more.
Yeah, and it's reminding me of early season 2 when Garibaldi wakes up from his coma and is like, who is this guy? Why should I just immediately trust him? And there is some like conflict in the beginning of Sheridan having to prove himself to Garibaldi and to gain his trust.
Yeah, so you have that at play. And that's one of the things. As soon as the reporter goes to talk to Garibaldi, you don't get to see the interview in this case. Whereas the other ones will make some kind of fun and lets you get mad in kind of a fun way. Is that you hear the entire conversation that Sheridan has with Londo, and it is just this silly conversation about his quarters being cold. And there was a point where Londo says this is completely unacceptable, right? But then when you see it in the documentary, he's narrating over it going, Sheridan's just a puppet for these alien political figures, and you just hear, and it looks like he's being chewed out and given orders, and Londo's like, this is totally unacceptable. And we know that Londo's just being ridiculous. We know what he's talking about, but they twist it into this thing. So, and they do all these things. They do the freeze framing delays. Like, is this our future? Is this Sheridan's human race? Dun dun dun. Or even the way that they try and do the cliffhangers where they're like, Franklin took this patient out on a stretcher and he mentioned cryosleep, but what does that question really mean?
Yeah.
More of that in a minute.
And the brown zone is now all of Babylon 5, according to the media.
Oh yeah, they say that all of the humans are living in the brown sector when that's just not true. It's even, I mean, as far as we know,
well, with the exception of the elitist aliens, I should say, who are constantly having their ships repaired without any hesitation or questions. And sure, you take all of our resources and our workforces, that's fine. We're just here to serve aliens.
Yeah, well, that's what they're spinning, but it's, I mean,
right.
We see like a healthy mix of humans and aliens like all the time on the main parts of Babylon 5. in the market or in the restaurant or wherever. Like, all of it just feel, and I think that's what's so, because the journalist like is basically given like free reign to do what he needs to, because and they're not happy because there's some good humor at the start where they've got him detained, and Zach like gives him a bit of shit when he's like searching his crates, and he's got his camera drone thing in there. I thought that scene was kind of funny, but also ridiculous. First of all, Zach's name appears in the credits now as Security Chief Zach Allen. Hey,
and
promotion!
I checked an older episode, and it's not there.
Well, of course, he just got that promotion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, you think these credits or the opening titles are made once and then that's it, but no, they've made adjustments.
I mean, they adjusted some text. It's not, as far as adjustments go, it's the easiest thing to do.
Well, I just, other shows in the 90s didn't do that, I don't think. I mean, it'd be easy just to leave him as, Jeff Conaway as Zach Allen without changing any titles. But they added the title in.
Good for him.
That was fun.
Yeah, good for him.
Although I do question his decision making in this scene, because his security officer says, "Look, they won't let me inspect their equipment. There could be anything in there. There could be explosives," and then Zach just shoots it. Seemed like the wrong decision there. Luckily, it was just a camera, not explosives.
Yes, although I did chuckle at the other guy going, "Good shot, Chief." He's like, "Don't say that until you know what I was aiming for." But no, the banter I really like those when they've got him detained and he's like, this woman threatened to throw me out of an airlock, and Sheridan's like, "Did you threaten this man?"
Yes, sir.
To throw him out of an airlock? What a shocking display. You know how tight we are for resources here. That's a good jacket. You can't throw that out the airlock. You strip him down naked first and then put him out the airlock. Right?
Do you think they purposely got a guy who kind of resembles Morden?
I could see that.
Even his outfit's very Morden.
Honestly, the best part of that joke, I thought, honestly, was like one of his little snipe later. When Sheridan's saying, "Oh, everyone's free here. We have an open door policy," and then Ivanova goes, "And an open airlock policy."
Oh, Ivanova.
That was my favorite part of that whole joke. So yes. But no, it's what it's going to be like a slaughtering of their like public image, because they've got dinner, they're going to watch this together when it's airing, and Sheridan says something to Ivanova along the lines of, "Oh no, we watched what we said, we made sure nothing could be taken out of context," and I'm like, and in my head I'm remembering the line going, "And if they don't understand, we'll make them understand." I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know, Sheridan, some of this sounds like it could sound quite bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a good move to have like suddenly go to a second camera of our interviewer when it's clearly like just added in.
Yeah, it's a new question. It's a different question to what he actually asked, so it sounds more sinister. Yeah. That's a nice touch. So, I mean, it's a well done episode. It's a really weird formatted episode, but I do think like not seeing the reactions of the characters for so long does make that last minute of seeing them standing there in silence more effective. Because I felt this like it was like a nuclear bomb had just been dropped on them, metaphorically speaking. And so that when they were standing there in silence at the end, having not seen them for 20 plus minutes at this point, it actually did feel quite impactful. So
sure, I look forward to the next episode to see what the real fallout is from this.
I really hope this reporter tries to come back for a follow-up story and Ivanova gets to throw him out the airlock. That's what I hope.
Well, we got our wish for Morden.
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing I liked about Zach's scene is when he realised it was a camera, there's this, before it cuts to the credits, he like puts on a camera smile. He's like, "Oh, I'll smile for the camera, sure." Oh dear. So I mean, yeah, it's an entertaining episode and it has some like serious weight behind what it does. And it's very easy as you're watching it to get mad at what this reporter's twisting things into and this conspiracy theory that we know is nonsense. There's never even like there been a misunderstanding of where these extra bodies that are in cryosleep came from. Okay, I can see why there's speculation over that. I can see why people are asking questions about that. Right,
because they're purposely being elusive about why they're there.
But when it gets to, Sheridan wants to convert the human race into like human Minbari hybrids, and he's coming for all of you at home. and he's using your tax dollars to do it. Like, when it gets to that, it's like, okay, this is just like nonsense. This is just absolute nonsense based on everything we know.
They use baby blood, drink the baby blood in order to convert people into Minbari hybrids.
I've always thought of President Clark as being kind of spineless and almost just sort of like where he is because he happened to like have the help and guidance of the shadows when he did. But it does feel that even if he's not really smart, he's definitely got people around him who are helping like drive these narratives now.
Yeah.
So very curious to see.
This is our next big bad then, huh? It's going to be President Clark.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I think it's less. I mean, it doesn't really matter that it's him. It's more just kind of like the type of person he represents, rather than a specific, you know. Because he's not really a character. Like he's not like a Londo who we know well enough that we understand why he's making like bad decisions or wrong decisions or anything like that. Or even Morden, who is like the face of an enemy. Like Clark is kind of this boogeyman who represents like the system, right, and the corruption of the system and all the things that can come from that, you know. So
yeah, he's the thing that is preventing progress in order to attain power, or to hold on to power.
And I think that's partly why, you know, I don't think the reason why we don't see Clark that much, if at all. I don't think it's because the actor we had at first like can't come back. I don't think it's. I mean, maybe he can, but I don't think that's why. I think it's a conscious artistic choice. We've seen him a couple of times. We've seen him. I think we saw him on TV getting sworn in or something like that back at the end of season 1, start of season 2 kind of time. I have an image in my head of what he looks like, so we did see him at some point.
He might have come on board Babylon 5 at one point.
But I don't think it's I think it's an intentional artistic choice to not show him. I think that's kind of the point, is that he is this faceless, just like idea of a corrupt president, rather than.
Or maybe they want to get a big player for when he does show up. You're like, oh, it's that guy.
No, but we've seen him though.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're just holding on. I mean, they've recast before. I
mean, they have, but like I'm saying, if this is intentional, so therefore I don't expect them to like, oh, all of a sudden, I don't know, it's the 90s. Christopher Plummer has walked onto the station as President Clark
with an eye patch bolted into his skull.
So, I mean, I'm not expecting something akin to that, but who knows?
I suspect we'll see him eventually.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying we won't see him again, but I think it's intentional, like how little we do see of him. Like, and if we do see him again, it'll probably be like on a TV screen or something, unless they really decide to like properly start showing him and like have him in scenes. Because even when we saw him before, I don't think he was like in scenes. He was just like on TV screens and stuff like that.
Maybe he's not human. Maybe he's been replaced by something evil.
Are you thinking the same parasite thing that's on
could be
our Centauri friend? I could see maybe them going down that route and playing with that. That could be a thing.
I mean, maybe that's why they don't see him, is because he's actually like trying to cause xenophobia and isolate people from the rest of the universe in order to protect his own species or something.
Well, I don't think the characters don't see it. I think it's just we don't see him. Mm-hmm. I think they still see him giving presidential addresses and stuff. I don't think he's hiding from the public in the universe.
He wasn't on the news program. There was an announcement from President Clark. Like, he made a declaration that today is now a holiday to because they took back Mars or something.
Yeah, but that's not him avoiding the public. People do announcements for the presidents like that all the time.
Okay, well, I mean, I think either one of us could be right on this.
There's been nothing to suggest that he himself is trying to not be seen by the public in the way that a typical president would be seen.
Well, I mean, I don't know why you're so resistant to this, but like, it could there could be another reason.
I don't know. Sure, fine. But that's not what I was saying, though. I was saying that they're making a creative choice to not show the audience this guy that much. That's what I was talking about. In-universe stuff of him hiding from the public is completely separate.
It's always like this abstract idea of a powerful figure is always going to be more impressive than if you just see this weenie guy behind a podium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. True. So... yeah, and we have other good examinations of characters who are corrupt on this show. We don't necessarily need to have another one. So, you know, there's a balance to it. This one can just be this unseen presence, and it works. Which also works in the context because most people don't get to meet a president. To most people, a president is just a figure on TV.
Yeah, sure, but you see him on TV. You see him, like, around. You see, like, pictures of them and... just they're everywhere.
I know, but I'm not saying the characters in the show aren't seeing that anyway.
Well, they're definitely not now because they're cut off from.
Oh, sure, yeah. The people in the station aren't probably seeing much of them.
Although I wonder how they're able to get this news program.
I mean, I'm still stuck in TV broadcasts. Obviously, they can't communicate.
Well, I thought they weren't though. Well, whatever.
Well, clearly they are. They're literally watching it in the episode.
I thought they mentioned earlier that they're not even getting ISN or something because they're so cut off from news from home. It's okay. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I don't remember this, so I don't have anything for you. So, yeah, some other stuff in the episode to talk about though. Garibaldi's now like a PI. He's hunting
it's what he's always wanted to do.
He's hunting down things.
He's not wearing his hat though, which is confusing. Like if he's going to be a PI, he's going to wear his hat.
But he's hunting down an item for someone. This doesn't even seem like it's a big enough deal that we're going to even see this play out. I think it's just sort of like as an example of the sort of thing that he's doing. But we get to see him kind of like not be fooled by someone. He has a conversation with Lanier, who asks him about what he's doing, why he's chose to resign as security chief and stuff like that. And it's interesting that as soon as the subject of Sheridan comes up, he isn't, Garibaldi doesn't, which made me think that's part of the conditioning is like to sort of like go more against Sheridan because he doesn't want to talk about him. As soon as Lanier mentions the captain, he's like, let's not talk about that. We'll talk about other things. We'll talk about other people.
Yeah.
Like, he reacts to it in a very kind of like he's triggered almost by just the mention of Sheridan. It was interesting.
He was also triggered by looking at the image of the statue, which I guess is some sort of Drazi god. This figure that the guy's trying to locate, and he kind of stares at the picture, and it triggers a reaction also, some sort of flashback.
Yeah, I mean it's just kind of more of what we've seen before, mostly. He's sitting in a chair and there's like a voice saying, "You only work for us. You just work for us."
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, whether or not he's consciously seeing this flashback or he's just getting like a vague sense of it, it feels more like the latter to me, rather than like he remembers sitting in a chair hearing that. Because I feel like if Garibaldi could remember like vividly just this snippet of like someone saying that to him, he'd probably like be like, I should go talk to Franklin or something. It'd be like, ask about this.
I wonder why it's the statue that triggers it, though. That's all.
My simple answer is because the statue is not valuable. The whole point of this is that the statue is just hiding like other things inside it. So the idea that he's hiding secrets inside himself.
That's good.
There you go. Just thought that on the fly.
That's why they pay you the big bucks.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're on Patreon.
Patreon.com/MailFuzzTV specifically. Yes. But yes, I mean I hadn't considered it, but that's my explanation now you've asked.
Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. Yeah, we get to catch up. We see a few different people. There's no Veer in this episode, but did you notice that he directed this episode?
I did not notice that.
Yeah.
No. I was thinking it was too bad Veer wasn't there to make another wish about another guy's head on a spike.
No, Ivanova gets to wish this one.
Yeah.
Airlock.
The airlock.
He's going to go out the airlock.
His fate is sealed.
Unlike the airlock, which is definitely not sealed.
Boom.
So yeah, I mean that's just fun. I don't know if this is the first time he's directed an episode or if this is just the first time I've noticed it. But I noticed his name was directed by Stephen First.
Stephen First.
I was like, okay, cool. Which is something you see in a lot in TV shows. When you get like higher up in the seasons, you'll notice like one or two of the actors usually start like getting curious and let me direct an episode.
Yeah, Star Trek was known for that.
And it's that sort of thing where because they're there shooting this TV show for like 9 months, 10 months a year, and they're there constantly, they see how the job is done like for so long that like it's not that much of a risk to say, yeah, go on, like have a turn.
I think Terry Farrell, which is I'm pretty sure it was her, who I think she's like the only person to get denied to direct an episode of Star Trek, who is like an actor.
Who asked?
Who asked, but like, I want to try this also, like follow some of my other coworkers and, expand my capabilities and responsibilities.
Was the producer's reaction, but you're a woman?
Well, I'm pretty sure Gates McFadden directed one.
Oh, did she? Okay. Fair enough.
One or two in the later seasons of Next Gen. In fact, I think she directed one of the like notoriously not good ones. But
oh dear.
I don't think it was her fault. I think they just gave her like, sure, you can have this POS script.
Yeah.
Do your best.
Well, it's funny to me that with the original series, it escalated to the point where literally they were nabbing movies for themselves.
Yeah.
Like Nimoy got 2, and then Shatner's like, I want one.
I'm gonna get the one where Kirk talks to God.
Talk about having a god complex if we're on that subject.
Oh, yeah. God, I love Shatner.
But yeah, no, it happens a lot in TV shows. So I don't know if there's other examples in Babylon 5 specifically, but I'll look out for them now that I'm starting to notice a little bit. But it's fun to spot. And to be fair, I do think the direction in this is solid. Like I say, that final minute when they come back to the, like Sheridan's office, I do think.
I mean, it's like 10 seconds, but it's.
I mean, it's much longer than 10 seconds.
We needed to see something.
No, but it's much longer than 10 seconds. Like, they stand there in silence, and by the time, like, the first two walk out and then he walks out, I mean, it probably sits in an empty room for 10 full seconds before he comes back in and turns the TV off.
Yeah, I remember someone turning off the TV.
Yeah. So it's not just 10 seconds. It is like a full minute and a half of just pure like atmosphere and tension because of what they've just watched without uttering a single word, and I think it's very effective. So like it's a bit of a weird structure of an episode, but I mean if he's going for this gut punch of a final moment, like, I think he succeeded because I felt things in this last bit. So credit to him. And I don't know. TV directing's like a funny thing because like so much, it's definitely a lot less expressive than other like in film because it's not the director's medium, it's the writer's medium. You have to fit the style of the show, you have to fit kind of like the established process and all the rest of it, so there's much left like room to be creative. But that sort of decision though of how to show this moment does feel like the director got to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean it was his idea. Like, someone could have said, hey, why don't you do this at the end, and maybe he just agreed, but it was very effective, so I'll compliment it.
Sure. Good job, Stephen First.
I'm not so sure how I felt about those moments where you got the weird like sort of like freezes in the camera, like flashes, or not flashes, but like the
just like there's actually it threw me off at first, but I guess it's to show you like this will come back later. It's like when you play one of those Telltale games, like, and all of a sudden their answer is like, this character will remember that you said that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that I realised that at the time. I thought it was just like an example of different things, and it was doing like a sort of thing for texture, and I thought this is a bit weird. Later on, though, you realise that all of those moments are moments we then see come back and used in like out of context in the news piece. So that's pretty effective too. I was trying to remember if there's anything else in the first half that we've not talked about that we should. Between any of the other characters who we see, because it bounces around. I mean,
Lanier is the one who does all the who's the one giving the tour, and I felt really bad for him because he kept getting like a camera in his face and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because actually I laughed at this because he's in the elevator and the camera keeps like going too close to his face to the point where Lanier almost tries to headbutt it because he's getting annoyed at it. Which
he seems so uncomfortable the whole time. I felt bad for him.
Lanier's like such a zen guy most of the time that the idea that something pisses him off enough that he's ready to throw a headbutt is kind of funny to me. Like,
I don't remember that coming back into the interview or into the media piece, but
they should have used that. They should have used the footage of him just going like this.
Like just headbutting like a dinosaur. Like a Pachycephalosaurus.
He's ready to whip out some of that Minbari martial arts that we know he can do.
Well, he is a monk. A space monk. With a bone head.
Yeah. So, a bit of a weird episode, but I think also very effective in what it ultimately does. Like, I thought the ending was super effective and it made its point, and I really felt like there was a shift in mood because of what this news piece did to them. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. It wasn't always like the most captivating as it was playing out early on, but once it got to the end, it kind of like made its point. So, you know, so I guess I'm saying it's like flawed, but it's excellent at what it ultimately achieves. So, you know, take that. It's whatever appraisal you wish.
Yep. We're in dangerous territory.
Okay. Well, there you go. That is this week's episode of Babylon 5. You can let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and ding the bell for notifications. All those things help us out on YouTube a lot and help us crack that dreaded algorithm, which is our own version of the shadows that must be defeated. Tara, why don't you tell them about Patreon?
That's right, Peter. If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you'll get access to bonus episodes for reviews that we do over on the Ace, our sci-fi movie podcast. And if you donate $5 per month, you'll get access to these Babylon 5 reviews 6 days early. You also get early Star Trek reviews and Twilight Zone reviews when we do those. Yeah, head on over. Check it out. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, but that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.